All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have an interesting story coming out from Sony and obviously PlayStation 5. Now, I don't know if you guys have original PS5 boxes like I do, but when I looked at my box, I can attest that this is absolutely correct. On the initial box, there was an 8K label that showcased that the system would be able to play 8K games in the future once titles and whatnot were able to produce that level of quality. This system was going to be able to do it. They were touting it as a next generation thing. Well, apparently, Sony is removing these 8K labels from new PS5 boxes, essentially proving that they were never able to do this in the first place.
No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction.
We have an article here from IGN with a headline that reads, Sony appears to remove 8K tag from PlayStation 5 boxes. 8K support since PS5's launch has been nearly non-existent. Well, to be fair, okay, unless you're playing on Master Race PC, 8K really isn't a thing anywhere else. I mean, it's just not something that is prominent. Until this day, 4K is still not something that is extremely prominent to the point where I would say everybody's doing it. I still think 1080p is what is prominent right now, that everybody is doing that. But still, 4K is a thing that is mainstream, but not quite to the extent of 1080p, let alone 8K. 8K is something that only some of the most hardcore PC gamers are utilizing right now. No console gamers are utilizing. There's no console game that I know of that does 8K reliably. So I can understand from that aspect that that's why they're taking it off. However, you then come into the issue where you sold this console under the guise of being able to do 8K, and now you are removing it after the fact. So does that mean it opens you up to a lawsuit from the initial people who bought PS5s? You gotta wonder. So let's get into this article, guys, from IGN. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says Sony appears to have removed the 8K tag from PlayStation 5 boxes that has been clearly visible on the front of them since launch. As spotted by Digital Foundry's John Lineman, new PS5 boxes now only include the 4K 120 FPS and HDR tags and no longer shout to the world that Sony's latest console is capable of outputting to 8K. Now, this is how my box looks. If you guys look at this picture here on the left, I specifically have this box. Like, this is what it looks like. And now they have completely removed that. I mean, this is not by accident, right? I don't think this is something where you can say a few boxes have it removed by accident. I don't think so. I think that this is a tried and true method of them trying to sneak in the fact that they can't uphold what they promised. And we're seeing this a lot in the gaming industry, and it's really a fucking bad practice that is getting on my last nerve. But unfortunately, they're getting away with it because not a lot of people are talking about it. And aside from not talking about it, not enough people are complaining about it. I mean, we've seen what happens when Sony is forced to bend the knee due to consumer complaints, and very quickly, people need to talk about this. If they are removing 8K because they cannot actually perform 8K, or they cannot provide any 8K services in terms of games, thus they are going to remove the label, yeah, I think that's pretty damn ridiculous. So it says IGN has reached out to Sony for a comment, but we have confirmed in the meantime that the PS5 boxes on the PS5 pages of PlayStation Direct are also missing the 8K tag. Prior to PlayStation 5's launch in 2020, Sony noted that PS5 is compatible with 8K displays at launch, and after a future system software update, will be able to output resolutions up to 8K when content is available with supported software. Since then, there's been virtually no true support for 8K titles, except for a game known as The Tourist. Additionally, the adoption of 8K TVs is not quite at a level where it has been a priority for console makers. Yeah, well, I don't think it ever would have been. That's the thing. Like, whenever you're talking about that kind of resolution upscaling, I just don't think that it's a priority for most people, right? Most people especially console, most people playing on console are not worried about 8K resolution unless they're going to be getting it at 60 frames a second or even 30, right? But even then, I highly doubt it. You probably would have been stuck at movie level FPS, 24 frames per second, and it would have been miserable. Sure, it would have been gorgeous, but it would have been miserable. You would have been lagging all day. So I just just don't think that people really would have been looking for this from the first place. But the thing is, it's not about whether or not gamers are looking for it, because it's not gamers that made the promise, right? It's the corporation. It's Sony who made the promise. They said that they can do 8K. They will update the system to do 8K. They will have software to support 8K. They will utilize 8K resolution on TVs. They promised all this stuff, and they cannot follow through. And that's not the fault of the gamer. That is the fault of the company. It says that since then, there's been virtually no support for 8K titles, which you already said. Sony wasn't alone in highlighting 8K back in 2020, as Microsoft also touted the Xbox Series X was able to support the resolution. However, Xbox head Phil Spencer cautioned that 8K is an aspirational technology and that we're years away from 8K being, if it ever is, standard in video games. Well, that's the thing. That's what I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it. I don't think it's ever going to be standard. I think 8K is just ridiculous. If 4K right now, to this day, is not considered standard for most gaming. And by most gaming, I'm talking about outside PC, right? Like, I play on ultra wide resolution. It's ridiculous, but not everybody's like that. People mostly play on 1080p, especially when we're talking about a high hertz, right? I would take lower resolution and high frames and high hertz all day long. I would rather that than a 4K or 8K picture at 30 frames a second. I really genuinely believe that the 60 frames plus makes the game a lot more beautiful to not only look at but also perform, and the hertz rate needs to be high to go along with that as well. So I just think that to say that 8K should be a thing to aspire to, I really don't think that's true. And I think that Sony would have been better off to leave the 8K off of the boxes from the beginning. I think it was a stupid marketing gimmick. I think it's obvious that they were trying to use it to garner more PS5 sales from idiots who really thought that this stupid system that cost $500 that was going to be able to give you any sort of real 8K experience. If you thought a $500 system was going to give you an 8K experience either now or in the future, let me know who you are, and I have plenty of bridges to sell you, and I think I can make a lot of money. I really do. So again, guys, 8K is not going to be a thing for the time being. 8K won't even be a thing for the next 2 console generations. I really just don't believe that. I don't see the numbers going that way. I don't see the trends going that way. And I think a lot of gamers have made their voices known that FPS is the highest priority. They want frames per second more than they want higher resolution. So I would focus more on the 4K 120 aspect. I think that is very important, right? I think if the PS5 can do 4K 120, that is impressive, and I would rather that over 8K 30 any day. So we'll see what happens. In terms of lawsuit and whatnot, I don't know if this is necessarily going to be potential for a lawsuit. I got to imagine that there has to be some sort of legal precedence that can be made here. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know. But I got to imagine when a company promises something and then is unable to deliver, there has to be some sort of accountability held. There has to be. Like, we cannot let Sony get away with promising 8K on the PlayStation 5 and not pulling through, at least not even once, right? So again, if it's software support, well, you got to get on your developers to make it happen. If it's hardware support, well, that's Sony's fault, and they knew that they wouldn't have been able to do it from the beginning anyway. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.